Well, I'm adamantly opposed to mixed martial arts, and the reasons are basically threefold. One, it's a very violent sport, and it's violent for the participants, and it has a violence effect on our society. Secondly, I think economically it's harmful to us. So where some people would tout it as economic development, I think it hurts economic development. And finally, it is an activity that breeds violence.
Have on prime time people bleeding and inflicting damage, physical damage. And what are we, the Roman Empire now? I guess we are, right?
You know, I think you can get a rating with live executions. Why not do that? This is a very violent sport. One of the reviewers I read said this sport is basically boxing with more opportunity to inflict brain damage.
UFC are a bunch of skinhead white guys watching people in the ring who are also look like skinhead white guys.
I take offense to that.
Well, I started early. I was 5.5 when I started with judo. After that, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, and so on and so on. Thai boxing, MMA. Just like a natural, I call it a natural evolution in a way.
I first got into kickboxing when I was in my early 20s. I got into it because I used to love all the old martial arts films. All Bruce Lee, Jean-Claude Van Damme, all them Steven Seagal. Jean-Claude Van Damme was probably one of the best with his kicks, and I wanted to get into that. I absolutely loved him. So I got into it and just took off from there. I loved sparring, fighting, fitness, being as fit as I could be, and I wanted to be the best. So I used to train like mad to be as good as I could be.
If you go back in history, pancration was one of the first on one of the first Olympic Games. So basically, MMA as it is now nearly was already existent. Punches, kicks, submissions, wrestling. Later, when now I can actually tell you the history. When the Romans actually conquered Greece and surrounding countries, they thought it was barbaric. That's why they introduced Greco-Roman wrestling, and actually pancreas stopped existing in the Olympic Games. Until then, it was there. You know, so I always say Wikipedia, type in history of pancration or MMA, and then you'll find out. I mean, obviously modern MMA, 1990, I think, 2 it was, with UFC, with Gracie starting it, anyone challenging anyone. You know, we saw a lot of different and good styles.
MMA gives you the opportunity for people from all different backgrounds of combat sports to come together and actually compete and see not what style is the best so much anymore, because everyone trains every style really, but see, it's the ultimate form of combat sport, just because you've got so many weapons at your exposure, so many ways to win, so many ways to lose, and it's just exciting because of that nature.
It's a total mix. Everyone can get in and get involved. It's not one set style that you have to learn to fight under, and a lot of people from the street get more involved in it. Yes, they have to start to learn the skills, but they don't have to be such a skillful stand-up as if they were doing Thai boxing. They can be semi-skilled on the stand-up, and they've got to learn the ground fighting. So it lets more people from all different environments, all different martial arts, every background get involved under one.
It's a lot of training, really, a lot of different gyms. You know, everyone does the normal cardio and cardio-muscular and vascular endurance, as well as you know, the stamina and the technique, the punches, the sparring. Some gyms do have an emphasis more on wrestling, on submission. Some have. Really, for an MMA fight, you have to be complete. We see now recently, like with people doing front kicks, karate front kicks to the face, like so-called Maigeri, knocking people out. So basically, back to basics in a way a little bit. You use everything that works for you, and that's kind of like my motto: just train hard and again be first.
Training, try and get up well. For instance, now I've got a fight on the 26th of February, so I'll get up in the morning. I'll try and do do about a 45-minute run. You know, try and keep my diet quite clean. So you need enough carbs to give you a bit of energy, but you don't want to walk around with a belly on you. And then come down training, and about 2 hours a night here, maybe 5-6 times a week, and try and get some weights in as well.
To be honest, for most fighters, it's work. For most lads work because there's not a lot of money in the sport at pro level in Britain anyway. So until lads have got big sponsorships and stuff like that, a lot of lads work during the day or work sort of part-time jobs and then sort of training around it. So we get up in the morning, might train early in the morning before work, go to work all day, and then come home and train again. Some lads even manage to squeeze in 3 sessions around work. It's quite a tough sort of grind for a lot of lads, but obviously once they make it to the UFC and things like that, then it sort of changes a lot.
When I was fighting, I was just totally fixated on training. I was training 6 days a week. Most of the time I was in Thai boxing, in the evening I was going to the gym, I was street running, so it's just training like mad.
I try not to tell people that I'm a fighter, to be honest, because you do, especially MMA, there is that stigma with cage fighting being a bit of a barbaric sport and not really sort of something that someone respectable would do. Like, a lot of people have that sort of stigmatisation where people think that cage fighting is just 2 thugs in the cage that have no skill and they're just being pulled off the street and they're just fighting. But obviously, once I get to know people, then they eventually find out anyway. But I've never really, I don't think I've ever had any sort of people, if I have told them sort of early on, there would be any really judge me on it, or not to my face anyway.
You're both going into the ring, the exact same idea, you're both going to do the same thing. And well, you both got it in your mind, you both want to win, and whether that comes by knockout, submission or points, that's it. But there's no animosity there, you know, I don't dislike him, I'm pretty sure he doesn't dislike me, and at the end of it, we'll be friends and have a chat with him.
People choose to do it. It's not barbaric, there's a side of violence to it, but it's in a controlled environment, it can be stopped at any point. It's not like they're fighting in the street, someone's getting beaten to the floor, it can be stopped. Certain sports like MMA look a little bit more violent because there can quite often be more blood quicker because they're wearing smaller gloves, but at the same time it's not as bad as going 12 rounds of boxing getting punched in the head all the rounds. So I don't think it's barbaric, no.
The British press don't do a lot for MMA at all. I mean, there's a couple of newspapers that support the sport, but the British press probably do a really bad job of making the MMA look like it's human cockfighting or barbaric sport. So the British public is just, you know what it's like, people believe what they read in the paper, they believe what they see on TV. Most people that do a martial arts or anyone that's into sports, sort of martial arts wise or anything like that, will realise that what MMA is, but it's just going to take time, like anything. In America it's becoming more accepted now, and I think eventually in the UK it will be a huge sport. It's growing now and it will be huge soon, but it's just eventually getting to that point where people just accept it for what it is.
It's exciting. It goes again back, you know, history, gladiators fighting, it's 2 men in a cage. Cage is always associated with, you know, keeping wild animals or anything really, you know, caged, basically hidden. And it's just, I think people start to appreciate really the hard work. And I believe as well there's a completely new science or sports science branch open with regards to martial artists and their achievement. There's some people, let's say, take a kick to the ribs, which is like a mini truck hitting, and basically they've got no rib broken. So, you know, now scientists started kind of experiment, why is that? So what's going on there? So, you know, it kind of has its benefits. It's not for everyone, obviously, but then martial arts are still not in the top with regards to injury. You know, if you fall off a bicycle in cycling on 80, 60 miles an hour, whatever, you know, that's it. You know, football, basketball, you hear them, they're non-stop. I go professional fighters, they fight 10, 15, 20 fights, no injury whatsoever. Go play football, completely ripped this, you know, this broken. And it's just, you know, I think it's one of those things, people basically not educated enough, yeah.
I think the best thing about fighting is just probably the feeling you get when you win, to be honest, or even just being in the cage. It's just a completely different adrenaline level to anything I've really experienced before in my life. And I come from a background of being in the Royal Marines for 6 years, so and like going to Afghanistan and stuff like that. But fighting, because it's such an intense, it's a one-on-one sort of sport. It's a completely different buzz, and it's the endorphin and the sort of the kick you get your body feels from fighting is unbelievable.
I don't think there's any other sport like it really. I mean, you're going in there, you're relying on yourself. There's no other teammates in there. It'd be quite a lonely place, but the adrenaline rush and the feeling when you win is just pretty intense. So.
My most memorable moment in MMA would probably be winning my first fight at Bama in September. I won the British title earlier on in the year, but managing to get a good win on a big show like Bama was probably the most memorable moment in MMA so far.
Well, obviously winning the WBC Muay Thai Intercontinental title, but as well something we have in the Eastern Bloc or used to have before, winning military combat games. Basically, it's thousands of soldiers on one field and everyone fights everyone. And I was the last man standing, and 27 bones broken later, 6.5 months of treatment and recovery, but I did my country then, Yugoslavia, very proud. I even got 10 days off.
I do it now for fun and because I'm competing at a decent level and I really enjoy it. I mean, a lot of the time it isn't fun when you have to diet a lot and get down to weight, but once you get in there and actually compete, then you realise why you actually are doing the sport. So I wouldn't say I've got any real long-term goals, but yeah, I mean, I'm just going to take it as it goes, keep training hard, and you might see my name up there one day.